bad singing is kind of like part of it.
Yes.
It's part of what makes it good, if you can believe that, right? So I think the Kanye West hook is, I think, one of the best. This is maybe the best part, second best part, but I want to highlight it because it's bad, but in a good way. It's like Sharknado.
Wow.
The hook is like Sharknado, where it's so bad that you're like, wait, actually, this actually sounds good in a way. You know what I mean?
Good afternoon, beautiful people. This is another episode of Album Mode. We review a new album every single week. We look at the lyrics, the production, the overall aesthetic of the album, how the album fits into the context of that artist's career. For everyone watching on YouTube, like this video, make sure you're subscribed, and of course, leave us a comment. Let us know how wrong we always are. My name is Adriel Smiley, a.k.a. AdrielSmiley.com, a.k.a. Adriel Smiley Official, a.k.a. The Godfather, and we're here with His Royal Highness, a.k.a. The Bunny, a.k.a. No Longer a Munch, for one more month, a.k.a. The Champion, King Grant.
Welcome back, people. This time we're reviewing Cordae, The Crossroads. Cordae, an artist I have been following since YBN was in front of Cordae. Him, YBN, Namir, and YBN, the third guy I can't remember the name of, but it was
Jay, YBN Jay?
Yeah, Almighty Jay.
Yeah, there you go. Sorry, Almighty.
Yeah, he's fallen off. I think we can say that pretty comfortably. But Cordae is here. I've been following him since the YBN days. That mixtape, YBN the mixtape, low key one of the best mixtapes of the 2010s. Not even joking.
Okay.
I dare somebody to combat that. Like I might even make a YouTube video about that shit to try to show people how good it really is. But yeah, The Crossroads. I think this is second or third album where he is on his own. Cordae, no YBN. It's just him. This time he's got a ton of features. But yeah, so we're here on The Crossroads. How did you feel coming into this album about The Crossroads?
I want to give you your props because you are one of the people who was one of the first big YBN fans. From the inception of us even knowing each other, you've been a big YBN fan since then. I don't know if people thought that Cordae would be the one to rise to the top out of that group. I think at that time, I don't know that he was the guy everyone thought would be the one who's as popular as he is now. Our second time reviewing Cordae, we reviewed From a Bird's Eye View in January of 2022. Wow. Do you remember the score that you gave it?
It had to be 6-ish because I don't even really remember it like that.
You gave it 6.5. I gave it a 6.5. 6.5 is right now the sign of a good album. Like, just good.
Yeah.
6.5 is what you get if it's above average, but not good enough for us to write home about. So 6.5, we both gave it. I think the crazy thing about Cordae is he's one of those artists who is in this zone where people know him, but how much of their songs do they know? I was interested to see what is Cordae's biggest hit. And his most streamed song on Spotify is R&P with Anderson .Paak. I never would have guessed that. I forgot about this song completely. Not one of my more liked songs from that project. So it's pretty, confusing to me, I guess, why that's such a big song. But the theme here is that all his big songs are with features.
Right.
He doesn't have a big solo record yet. I think all of the songs in his top streaming, other than Mad as Fuck, which is new, but every single song he has on here that has a lot of streams has a feature, whether it's a song with Juice WRLD or a song with NF, Anderson .Paak, Jack Harlow, Lil Wayne, So that's something I think is some context going into this project because he does make good solo records. He has good songs that are just him on his own, but those songs haven't had the same amount of love as some of his features. How many Cordae songs do you have liked? I was surprised at how many I had because personally, I don't listen to Cordae that much.
Yeah, me neither.
I had 41 songs liked.
Wow.
And you know what's funny? I would guess this number is realistically closer to 13, but Spotify does this thing where if you like the album, they give you all the songs liked as well.
Okay.
So I would guess this number is closer to 11, 12-ish. But 41 is the number we'll go with. How much Cordae songs do you have liked?
I have 27, so that's kind of astonishing for me personally when you're saying 41. But yeah, I mean, I've been on the YBN train, Cordae. I've been aware of for a long time. I think that I was one of the people early when it came to like his music is actually good. Even when the debut album came out,
The Lost Boy.
I was like, yo, this is pretty solid. But I felt like most people were low on him. You did mention Anderson .Paak as that song R&P with Anderson .Paak as being his most streamed song. For some reason, I don't know what reason, his most prolific collaborator is Anderson .Paak, which is not a problem as an artist. You know, Anderson .Paak. Remember, he collaborating with Bruno Mars, dropping one of the best albums of this decade. So it's not a problem to be collaborating with Anderson .Paak, but it's just a very unique combo. You know, Cordae and Anderson .Paak, I think.
Yeah, he's one of those artists who's well respected by his peers.
Yeah,
more than anything, I think in terms of the fans respecting him, he still has a long way to go from the mainstream. But I think about his first project, Lost Boy, that came out in 2019. Meek Mill is on that project. Pusha T is on that project. Chance the Rapper, remember that guy? He's on the project as well. So he has always been someone, since he went solo, that his peers have respected him. I want to talk a bit about this poll that we did. Thank you to everyone following us on social media at Album Mode Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. So we did a poll to decide that we were going to do this album. And I thought this poll was so interesting because you mentioned before about, you know, do we want to do a different album? Are we sure we want to do this project? And I said, well, there's a few good albums out. Let's take it to a poll. And not all these artists. One of these artists is definitely different from the others, but the three artists that are similar are all in a similar range when it comes to how big they are as artists. And I wonder how people are perceiving them if that's how people feel about all these artists.
Right.
And I feel like they're all in their own niche where someone is a huge fan of one but not the other. So the outlier here is Shawn Mendes, of course, 48.6 million monthly listeners on Spotify. But the other three are all very close. Who do you think has the most monthly listeners out of that threesome? It's Denzel Curry, Young Nudy, and Cordae. Who would you say has the most monthly listeners out of that?
It's got to be Denzel Curry.
The answer is Denzel Curry.
Yeah.
Not by much. But Denzel Curry's at 7.8 million.
Oh.
Young Nudy at 7.5 and Cordae at 7.
Okay.
And I thought that was interesting because I don't know that we think of them all as being
in the same cohort.
In the same tier. And I think that's interesting for Cordae going forward is he's a kind of an anomaly in this way where he doesn't have any hits. His biggest songs are all with features. He's definitely not one of these mainstream kind of center of hip hop type of artists, but it seems like he has a core fan base that really rides out for him. And that's where this whole 7 million seems to be coming from. So I thought it was interesting because I think some people would definitely guess someone else, think it's a bigger gap, but to see them all in that same range was very interesting.
Yeah, I would consider Denzel Curry to have a larger profile than everybody else because it was also Young Nudy that was also on the docket, which I really like that album, by the way. But I just considered Denzel further ahead of them, or maybe just like a larger stature. And then it was like Young Nudy and Cordae were closer in stature. But it's actually kind of crazy to hear that they're that close. Cordae, I would say, leading up to this, I felt was like way smaller. Like I felt when I used to listen to Cordae's music, it felt like you were in like a little niche. You were in a Chance the Rapper, J. Cole, like that, whatever that Venn diagram is, you were fitting in between those two. So it's pretty interesting to see that he's scaled up to like 7 million. But you also have to think there's people like The Weeknd, Adele, Taylor Swift, who are and Billie Eilish, who are genuinely at like 100 million people, 100 million monthly listeners on Spotify. So he is, I would say, diminutive in that sense. But 7 million is more than I thought he had following him or listening to him monthly, to be honest.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that because I do think the internet in terms of an artist profile skews depending on what algorithm you're a part of.
Yeah.
Even thinking someone is more than they are. The person I always think of when it comes to this is Larry June. 2.3 million monthly listeners on Spotify. And I think that how often we see Larry June on the internet, you would think that it's more than that. So
Right.
I do think that he's one of those artists who it feels like the music itself is just carrying him to this point. I want to start with the intro because I think the intro is an interesting part of this album. You mentioned him kind of climbing up to 7 million. I think why I brought a list of artists is Cordae is a kind of artist that almost doesn't exist in hip hop as much anymore. Almost all of his music is autobiographical.
Yeah.
All of his lyrics, he's actually talking about himself, his life, and how he feels. And he's always been that way. I think on this project, it's a lot more than he's done in the past. Of course, he's going through some things. Life is changing. But I think realizing that he's that kind of artist made me understand and reflect on how rare that actually is. I think that there was a time when that was almost every artist. And they were all talking about themselves and their life. And now it feels like he's the rare one who's actually talking about his life in his lyrics. And the intro, he has a bit of interpolation in there of Bone Thugs and Harmony and Crossroads. What did you think about the intro?
I like the intro. I love Bone Thugs. Bone Thugs, one of the most important artists in hip hop history, low key.
High key.
I say low key because people don't know.
Underrated, yeah.
Yeah, they don't know. But Bone Thugs and Harmony. What do you hear everybody doing on music nowadays in hip hop?
Yeah.
Okay. But I liked it. I liked the incorporation of older school music. It did make me think this song, and there's a song that samples Lauryn Hill. Later on.
I think it's a Ty Dolla $ign feature.
Yeah. And then there's a song that
samples Heard Him Say.
Yeah, Heard Him Say. What is the budget for this album, bro? How are you getting Bone Thugs, Lauryn Hill, and Kanye West samples on your music?
But I think he's always had that. Like I mentioned, his first album, Pusha T and Meek Mill ain't cheap either.
Yeah.
So I think that he's one of those people where, he talked about he had a sold out tour for his last project. The online profile may not be as big as the Nudies and the Currys of the world, but I think the music is actually getting listened to because you're right. The budget to have Lil Wayne and Juicy J and Bone Thug sample, it's like, this is not cheap. This is definitely not cheap. I brought up the intro because it leads right into that first song, 06 Dreamin'. And that first song is such an unusual first song for an album. At least a hip-hop album. Usually a hip-hop album starts with some energy, a banger, maybe even a deep lyrical intro like J. Cole and Drake have done in the past. And that was a very chill, low energy, calm song as an intro. And when I talk about him being a different type of artist, that was kind of the tell for anyone who's not familiar. It's like, listen, I'm not here to get y'all hyped up like that. I'm going to tell y'all my life. Because that 06 Dreamin' song is about his relationship with him and his mother and him getting into music. And to have that as basically the real intro to your album is such a choice from him.
It's really interesting because this is the third album. So that's almost like a first album move or a sixth album move. And also it's not even about him. It's about his mom. Right? Rapping about how his mom was not able to be a successful rapper. So he was almost carrying on the lineage of her. I thought that was interesting because where are we going? Where exactly are we going? Because this is technically song one because the first one's the intro, right? So for him to go from that to this, but then also have this lyric where he's like, "Hey yo, my mom once tried out for making the band. She made it to the third episode, was taking a stand. You know the season where Puff made him run 6 miles? Now look what happened to Puff. Crazy how that worked out." What a drop.
There's another one in there too, yeah.
Yeah, so to go in these wild different directions, just an interesting concept to me because first of all, I didn't see this coming.
No.
I didn't see any of this coming, so it already has you off kilter, which I think is a good thing and a bad thing. I think considering how autobiographical his music is, I think it's a plus overall. And it sounds good. The production sounds good on it too. So it's not like it's just out of the blue and random. It definitely has some, continuity with the rest of the album.
I think it's a great move. I think that this makes him unique. Like his sound is already unique in 2024.
Yeah,
there's a
in
bunch of
2024.
old influences on this sound for sure. Like there's someone who's 41 years old who's hearing this project and being like, okay, I recognize this sound. But I think that aside from that, him actually being autobiographical sets him apart. And what he does on this record, which is probably, we haven't mentioned it as much on his last few projects, but I think here's where it's clear, is the features he has on this project.
Right.
Like, other than Jordan Ward and Raven Lene, all these features are quote unquote older artists. Like even Joey Badass, who's technically young, is an older hip hop sound. So I think him having a bunch of those features on here is part of him being, in a way, an old soul, like we said.
Yeah.
But I want to know who you think is the best feature on here. Because there's a lot of good ones to choose from.
Best feature. Should I be controversial?
Sure.
I think the Kanye West song hook might be the best feature.
Is that controversial?
I think it's in 2024, complimenting Kanye West music is a little bit controversial.
Depends who you ask, but yes, you're right. You're right. Some people don't like that.
I think that his song hook on that track, it's between him and Anderson .Paak, but I'm gonna say the Kanye West one just for the video.
Yeah.
But I think that his song hook, I think Kanye, not a good singer. I think we can establish that. But the thing is with Cordae's music, because Cordae's music is so self-reflective and earnest, that is something that, actually, let me go back. No Bad News sounds like a late registration college dropout type song. Yeah. Right? During that time, when Kanye was making music, we're like, oh, it's about his life. This is so real. Like this is for, your average dude, et cetera, et cetera. Cordae, his music, and especially on that song with like the violins and the strings, and it's so heartfelt. The music is all heartfelt. Then you add in this college dropout-esque era Kanye West. So you have this like earnest hook where it's so reminiscent, and like, even though the hook that goes, it's simple. It's like, no bad news today, no bad news today, no bad moods today, nothing to prove today. No news today, no bad news today, nothing to prove today. Times I used to pray. My singing is as good as Kanye's, right? But because it's so sincere, so reminiscent, and again, it's like it sounds like a late registration song. You're like, oh, you're drawn in. Like the bad singing is kind of like part of it.
Yes,
it's part of what makes it good, if you can believe that, right? So I think the Kanye West hook is, I think, one of the best. This is maybe the best part, second best part, but I want to highlight it because it's bad, but in a good way. It's like Sharknado.
Wow.
The hook is like Sharknado, where it's so bad that you're like, wait, this actually sounds good in a way. You know what I mean?
I wish I could remember who said this to give them the credit, because they referenced Kanye. Oh, maybe it was Tion Gibbs, who referenced Kanye West as one of his idols. And it's this thing he calls vocal vulnerability.
Okay.
And it's like the imperfections of the voice is part of what makes it work.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're saying this no bad news hook maybe doesn't work if it's Anderson .Paak singing it, because he can actually sing as well. And the vocal vulnerability of not as good vocally and what the song is saying is what makes it work. So I think that's a good choice here. I got two choices. I'll make them quick. They're not Kanye West, okay? No need to cancel me. We're not going to go down that road. One is Jordan Ward on Don't Walk Away. That song is just such a different vibe than Cordae has had. And I think it made me think of Cordae actually got to do more R&B features. Like, I do think that he can float on those and fit in a way that he probably hasn't done enough of. But my actual favorite one on here,
Lil Wayne.
Lil Wayne is a close second, or I guess close third, is Juicy J. I'll Never See It.
Yo, Juicy J, first of all, having one of the best longevities as a rapper from somebody that, does anybody expect from the 2000s to be like, oh yeah, Juicy J is going to be dropping relevant music in 2024?
Well, I was a Juicy J fan in his prime, but I saw it when Juicy J joined Taylor Gang. I said, oh, this is really happening. Shout out to my cousin Dwayne, my oldest cousin, 10 years older than me. He was a huge 3 6 Mafia fan when I was growing up. And there was a time when I went to go visit him in Montreal, and he sat on his computer back in those desktop days and played for me like 23 6 Mafia songs in a row. I was like 10 years old and I had no idea what I was even listening to. And to see where Juicy J is now and the influence they have on a lot of modern music.
Crazy.
I shout out to you, Dwayne. You knew what it was.
Yeah, he was on.
You were ahead of the game. There's one production that I want to highlight first before I go into the rest of this project, and that's Mad as Fuck for two reasons. One, that's a solo record from him that is on a more modern type of production. There's a little more rumble in that song.
Yeah.
The 808s are in it. And as well, it kind of has the hi-hat pattern that we've become used to in trap. Most of the solo records on here that are just Cordae are not that sound.
Yeah.
And I want to highlight that because that's something that he does very well, where when it's just him, we know what the sound is going to be like. That College Dropout, Late Registration, even Blueprint, Just Blaze, Kanye West type of sound. This is the one time where he said, no, I can do what y'all do on my own. And so it stands out on this project. It makes sense why it was a single because it fits into the kind of tone of what else is going on.
Yeah.
But to me, this is not where he's his best. But the production definitely stands out as like, this is Cordae moving more to the middle.
Yeah, I think that even early days in the YBN days, he did a song like Kung Fu.
Yeah.
Where no matter what, even if it's still trap, I would say it's trap adjacent.
Yeah.
That's what he makes his music. It's trap adjacent. Like, that's not the main point. Any song that he makes that's trap influenced or a trap song, it's not to be like a hard hitting track. Like, he never goes for that.
Yeah.
Because he's more of a lyricist, right? So he's trying to tie people up in knots with his words and stuff like that. So when it comes to a song like Mad as Fuck, personally, I don't think it really fully works. It feels like hollow to me.
Yeah, it doesn't have the energy. I think
Yeah.
this is something that we can talk about later on in the review, but I do think that he kind of is missing that edge
Yes.
that a lot of artists have.
1,000%.
And you compare them to J. Cole and Chance the Rapper. Like, those are two of the rappers who are not very edgy.
Yeah.
And how they move and how they rap. But I think that Mad as Fuck is his attempt at that. But again, I don't think that's where he's the best. I think I understand why it's on this project because I feel like if he didn't have a Mad as Fuck or didn't have a You Ain't Never See It, this project has a whole different tone. Like, having those songs in there kind of breaks up the whole College Dropout theme. But I agree with you. I don't think that's his best.
Yeah, so I think where he is best, excuse me, where he is best is Summer Drop. This is his best song in a long time.
You think so?
Yeah, I think
Interesting.
because I think his production style, or the production that he typically exists in, is kind of like stale. It's a little bit plain. I would say the typical production for his music is a little bit plain, like stuff we've heard before, or maybe it's just like two steps to the left or right of what we've heard before. But a song like Summer Drop with like those stuttering, like the stuttering horns. Anderson .Paak is like, he's saying, is it when the summer drops, right? Like, there's more, it's more lush. It's just more intricate. Not that it's like, super, profound in a way that it's intricate. It's just like there's more things happening. So when Cordae is rapping in a very, very interesting way, there's actually things to complement it. Because I think what he's dealing with right now is what Nas was dealing with in the 2000s, where like his rapping is great, but the beat selection is missing. Like, we're talking about...
Interesting. I don't know if I agree with that.
We were talking about Saw Baby last week. Shout out to the people who were watching the Saw Baby review, because that was actually one of our more popular ones.
Bless you.
Thank you. His production is fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, we were talking about the entire album. His production was crazy. But this, when it comes to Cordae, I just feel like he's missing pieces because he doesn't have the edge, right, that we're talking about for like Mad as Fuck. And then his production is also kind of closer to stuff that we've heard before. So I'm like, the music sounds edgeless. In a way.
I agree with that about the music sounding edgeless. One, I don't think Summer Drop is the best song on here. I wanted everyone in the comments show Démar some credit because he just gave J. Cole a positive review.
Yeah.
Because that's a J. Cole beat right there.
Yes.
So shout out to you for giving J. Cole some positive
There's a
reviews.
song on I think it's the Young Nudie album that is produced by J. Cole too. And I'm like, this is his best ever beat. I like J. Cole when his new songs that he produces, I like.
I said this 2 weeks ago, but when I said it was crazy. Now you're coming along. It's okay. Everyone has their time. I think the best song on here, which we're not even counting because it's a bonus, is actually 210s. I think that's the best song on here. But I think I wouldn't call what Cordae is doing like he's doing something wrong with production like Nas was. Nas was choosing some crazy beats.
They were bad. But this, I would say, is more stale. Go ahead.
But I think the difference is he's not choosing the beats that are like bombastic and quote unquote exciting. These beats are very chill, and his rapping is also very chill. I think of two rappers who also have chill sounds to them, Chance the Rapper and Smino. Those guys are doing different things with their voices and their delivery. That is kind of like, that's the percussion, and the exciting part is their delivery, their voices, their cadence. He's more a traditional rapper in the way of, I'm going to kind of rap straightforward and you got to just follow along with the story.
Right.
So I don't know if it's the beats that's really the issue. I think it's his beats are just chill. He's, again, not trying to be a party rapper, but he's not doing all these different voices, different cadences that make the song more exciting. One song that I really liked that I think feels like a Cordae-ass song is Saturday Morning.
Yeah. With Lil Wayne.
Yeah, the production on that, I think, fits very well. Like, I love the sample. I even love how it starts with kind of that 4 count into that drum roll. So that's a song where I'm like, this is what he does well. And again, we're not going to play Saturday Mornings at a party. No one is doing that. But if we play that in the whip while we're driving somewhere,
yeah, it's going to be great.
It can work. So I do think that his music isn't necessarily boring. It's just not party music. Right. And like Young Nudie probably has 12 songs off of last project that we're going to play out.
Yeah.
There's going to be one on here. And so it's like it works for different places, but I think that the center of hip hop is very much in the party place.
Yeah.
If you're not playing this outside, where are you playing it? And I think that we talked about it with Tyler on Cornucopia, where Tyler is one of the rare artists where he's very popular, even though you don't hear his music out as much. His last 2 projects, he's had more music that plays out than basically the whole rest of his career before that.
Yeah.
And I think Cordae hasn't figured out how to do that, because Tyler probably has 2 or 3 of those songs on a project, but the whole project isn't like that. There's only one sticky. So I think Cordae hasn't figured out his version of that outside record. He's made attempts at it with songs like Mad as Fuck. But I think his, play it in the car records, play it in the house records, he absolutely kills that.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I like Saturday Mornings a lot. I think that there's a lot of space for driving in the car, right? A lot of people are driving. So if you can snag a couple of songs like a Saturday Mornings where it's like that sample, the vocal sample, and it's like it feels almost like triumphant. That's great. I think that one of the songs that like befuddled me, this is both lyrics and in production. Syrup Sandwiches.
Ooh, you gonna get some beef.
Syrup Sandwiches. When I first heard it, I'm gonna keep it straight with everybody here. When I first heard Syrup Sandwiches, I thought Frank Ocean was being featured on the song. I thought that was Frank Ocean. I thought he was Frank Ocean when he was doing his first, maybe the first, I don't know.
Frank Ocean rapping?
Yeah. Dead ass.
I can see that. I can see that.
Like on some super rich kids type shit.
No. I can see that.
Right?
You're not crazy.
So, and like even that type of production with like the woozy guitar.
Yep.
That sounds like Frank Ocean, right? Literally at the very top where he's like, syrup sandwiches is sugar water, bad bitches with bad habits, sundresses, the skin is out, but you know how I feel about you. Like that's
not Frank Ocean ass rapping.
Yeah. Is it not? So I thought it was Frank Ocean. So I thought that song was pretty good. And it was just like really off kilter because I'm like, wait, I didn't even know he had this in his bag. Then Joey Badass comes in. I'm like, okay, well, now we're talking.
You know, it's funny. I actually thought it was Frank Ocean.
So you're looking at me crazy.
I know. I hate to agree with you, but I also thought it was Frank Ocean. And I think as well, like, that's just a part of where Cordae is as a rapper, where it's like he doesn't have the other voice. Like I mentioned about Smino and Chance the Rapper, he tried another voice, and we're like, this is not you. Yeah. If it was a Smino album or a Chance album, they do 10 voices. We're like, all these voices are you. So he's getting there, baby steps, but I like to see the effort. This is my one set of lyrics.
Okay.
And it's not my favorite song, but I think this is a record that really encapsulates Cordae as an artist and even just where he is right now. I'm going to read you a bit of what he said about the record. This is Shea Afeni. He said, when I first heard that sample, when my boy Smoko first played that beat, I told him, I'm going to make a song about my daughter. When I heard the beat, it was instantly, I'm going to talk about my daughter on this song. But this was before she was born. When I said, as soon as I heard it, it just gave me goosebumps. It gave me that feeling. So I had to wait until she was born to put it into words. So I wrote some lines, but again, I had to wait. The first verse I wrote maybe a couple weeks after she was born, and the second verse maybe a month or two after. Making a song about my first child, you got to be able to feel every line, every word that I'm saying. We talked about it being biographical. He's not the first person to write a song about his kids.
Yeah.
That's not the first person to do that. But usually we see artists do that in this way well into their 30s and 40s.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the songs that the artists in their 20s make about their children have a different tone than this record. And I think he almost had kind of, let's say, years of practice talking about himself because of all the other music he's making. I think you see some artists who most of their music is money, hoes, and clothes. And then they got to step into this bag talking about their kids and their family.
Yeah, introspective.
And it's not as natural. They kind of don't feel as normal doing it. Cordae, it felt like he'd just been doing this for a long time. On verse 2, he says, I'll leave these pages all for you just to have. Learn from mistakes that I made and create your own path. Learn from my life firsthand all the gems that I grabbed. Number 1, God is first. Keep your faith strong. And honor your mom and dad so your day's long. No pressure, you don't gotta be a baller or make songs, but I beg you, please avoid niggas like Trey Songz. Sorry, Trigger, don't ever fuck with that nigga. In business, don't burn bridges, and every loss, make sure you learn with it. First of all, 10 points for him for shouting out Trey Songz. Because the one thing that has been, we've mentioned it, of course, talking about Diddy over the past, whatever it's 14 months.
Yep.
Trey Songz is someone people know in the industry that he's just not right. Nasty, nasty man. For Cordae to put this in this song about his daughter is like, that's letting you know how serious this is. And I think as well, this is one of those songs that you can read the lyrics alone and feel something and understand where he's at. And that's what I think has been missing from a lot of the center of hip hop as a whole is when it's with the beat and you hear the song, you can vibe to it. But if you were to read those lyrics, you're like, this is grade 8 reading level right now. Mm-hmm. So Cordae is one of the rare artists where when you hear it, it sounds good, but when you read it, it still has some value.
Yeah, that's very true. I think one thing that is hard to say about Cordae is that we often talk about like artists where they make music about like the same things over and over. Mm-hmm. Respectfully, this guy needs to talk about something other than his family. I feel like that's all he raps about.
Like in general or just this project?
In general. Every album is about mom, which we talked about at the top of this.
Yeah.
06 Dream is mom. He's having a child. I respect that. I respect you.
All right, Démar hates kids. We get it.
I respect you.
Continue.
I respect it. But to go from that song, that's about his kid. I think then on What Really Matters is also about his kid. What else is there? There's also...
I think you're wrong. He talked about himself in a lot of different ways across his career. And this album, more than ever, he's talking about his breakup. He hasn't talked about a breakup that much.
He's dropping it low key though. He's just like,
what do you want him to do? It's not like his girl is low key.
His girl is low key. Naomi Osaka is pretty low key. She's the most low key tennis player probably in the circuit, and I know that.
She's not low key.
She's pretty low key.
No, she's not. Like
she's really low key.
She's not. She's a star, fam. Like come on.
She's a star. But what was the last thing that Naomi Osaka? Can you even think of like a quote that she said? Not really.
But you're saying low key is like not doing press.
Yeah.
She can't go outside.
No, I agree.
Like that's what I'm trying to say. Low key is like I can go to the store, no one's gonna bother me. No. Her just not doing press doesn't make her low key. Like she just had a kid. Like, she doesn't have to be doing press right now.
I mean, she's a tennis player. See, here's the thing. Okay, we're getting off topic. But Naomi Osaka technically is extraordinarily popular. Extremely popular, especially in Japan.
Yeah.
Right? But Naomi Osaka doesn't say shit. So that's what I'm saying. She's kind of low key.
But that's the thing. I think you're moving the goalposts low key because you're saying low key for being a star.
Yeah.
It's like Jokic.
She's like Jokic.
Yeah, it's like you're still a star. I think low key is like we don't even know who you are. Period. Okay. So for me, I'm like, what he I don't think he can do the full breakup record in the same way. I mean, he could, but I think it holds a different weight because we know who it is.
Right.
It's like Cordae and Offset. Mm-hmm. Cordae and Offset doing a full breakup record is a whole different type of weight than someone else doing it.
Yeah.
So
it's like Drake did it though. Taylor Swift does it.
And we always shit on them when they do it.
No, but it's actually like interesting though.
No, for sure, but we still shit on them. Like either it's interesting. It could be interesting and we shit on them. So it's like for me, I actually disagree with him talking about the same thing over and over again. I think he's talking about his life, and clearly family is important to him. So you're right. He talks about family a lot, but it's like I like him talking about his actual life. I don't want him to go off into money, clothes, and hoes and differ that way. We have enough of that. Mm-hmm. We don't need. We've heard enough about every bit of money, clothes, and hoes there is to hear about. Right. So I rather him talk about life, and as his life changes and develops, we hear about that. That's what I would prefer. Kind of how we heard with Tyler and Chromacopia. That's what I want to hear is how is your life changing? What's new going on with you?
I agree that like the Tyler thing, here's the difference between the Tyler trajectory and the Cordae trajectory. I'm talking just musically. I'm not talking about popularity. There are multiple albums of Tyler, the Creator, you know, like I would say Tyler, the Creator, the Psychopath, Tyler, the Creator, the Team Leader, Tyler, the Creator, the Remorseful Lover, Tyler, the Creator, the Jet Setter, then Tyler, the Creator, Reflector, right? We've only existed in Cordae, the Reflector space. Cordae, I Love My Family space, right? Even somebody like J. Cole, he came to that space with I can't remember the name of the album where he was like hanging clothes was part of one of the songs.
Oh, Folding Clothes?
Yeah, Folding Clothes
Drive.
But the one after that I can't remember the name of.
KOD?
No, but it was before that. It was like the worst one. Okay.
Damn. Okay.
But he came there, bounced in, then he bounced out. Drake, I would say Drake exists in the morass. A lot of things going on with Drake we don't need to get into. But Cordae has only existed in this one space. Even somebody like Schoolboy Q bounced in and out of this space. So that's my issue overall is because like the musical trajectory, there is no trajectory. It's a pinpoint. And I think that's a little bit of a problem because I've heard similar versions of these songs when it comes to the lyrical ability and just like what he's talking about.
Yeah, I think you're right in that sense. I don't know where he's headed in terms of the future of his lyrics.
Yeah.
And I guess, you know, we're going to see because this to me feels like he said himself, it's a crossroads. And so maybe this is like the point where he changes, you know, lyrically what he does going forward.
So yeah, that's I think my biggest issue. So it's like, that's why I said respectfully.
Okay.
You talk about your family too much on your music.
Are you ready to talk about his career?
Sure.
So for his career, for me, this is a win. I think it's a plus. I don't know that, he's found that big hit. We talked about at the top. Still doesn't have that big hit record.
Right.
He has good popular records. Like 210s off this is clearly the most streamed song.
Which is weird to me.
Why is that weird? It's a good song.
No, it's a good song, but I'm like, it's not really like the hit single type of song to me.
That's not his sound. And I think that's why this is a win to me is he hasn't compromised his sound in search of that hit.
Right.
I think whatever is going to eventually be that hit song or big song is going to be a unique sound to what the center of hip hop is. I don't see him having a random key Glock feature that takes him to the top.
Right.
I see him doing it in kind of his own special sound and it just breaks through and becomes a big song. So I think him staying true to his roots actually is a win here, even though we did ask for more growth. I think what he's building in terms of himself as an artist is something that we haven't really seen as much. And so I'm interested to see where this goes.
Yeah, me too. I think it's a win because back on the radar, I think that his introspection with breaking up with Naomi Osaka is interesting, even though I wish there was more. Where's the breakup song? Where's the breakup song? Like, where is it? But that's not even new for hip hop. People make breakup songs all the time, men and women, right? Every genre of music has breakup songs in it. So where's the breakup song at? If it's that important, if your family life and life in general is that important, where's the breakup song? So I even think that that's an issue with his trajectory because that could have been like a moment.
I maybe on the next project, maybe it's too soon.
Yeah.
I also feel like breakup songs of hip hop, they exist, but a lot of times they're pretty corny. And I think that is one thing that, even though it might work for Drake and Taylor Swift in terms of being popular and being interesting, the last breakup song to me that was like not corny and so heartfelt was Lil Baby Close Friends.
Okay.
And
so Lil Baby's dropping a breakup song. YBN, sorry, not YBN, just Cordae can be dropping a breakup song.
But he don't have a close friends in him. And maybe that's what he's gonna prove me wrong. But he don't have a close friends in him. So for me, this is like a slight win.
Yeah.
But I think the next time we review him, he's still gonna be in that same group with Denzel Curry and Nudie.
Yeah, I just need to see a switch up in some way. Lyrical switch up, production switch up, something.
I disagree with you there. I see him to make more of the songs that we like. Like, I think if he didn't have Mad as Fuck on here, even 06 Dreamin' I don't need, but he just had an album full of like Summer Drop, Back on Road, Saturday Mornings, 210s.
Yeah.
That's a great album. So I like that. Let's talk about the cover a little bit.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. Black and white.
I think it's his best cover.
Yes, actually, by far. Because I think that he was kind of like Saw Baby in a way where I'm like, why is it so low budget?
I'm screaming.
Why is the album cover so low budget? And even the YBN the mixtape, which was their first project, I'm like, this feels and looked cooler than anything else that he was doing. So I like that this black and white, the distortion on the image overall. His hair is growing out, which looks good. So I think it looks great hiding his face, even though his music is so self-effacing. It's a cool concept. What do you think?
I think it's just him growing up. Like, I do think, if you think about his first album, it's called The Lost Boy. He still has a baby face. Even when you see him in videos, it kind of feels like someone who's new to the business trying to get their confidence on screen.
Right.
And I feel like he's finally starting to, come into himself as a man and as an artist. So I think this of him, I guess, mostly showing his face more than the other two covers because his back was completely turned.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is like progression of like, he's facing the camera, he's covering his face, he's facing the camera. Next time he'll have his head up and his hands away from his face.
Yeah.
But to me, this is progress because, again, before it was a cartoon of him with his back turned.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so do you think it's a no skips?
No, not a no skips for me.
No skips.
Not no
so
skips.
So is it a final cut?
Not a vinyl cut. Not a vinyl cut. But there are some records on here that I think definitely would sound good on vinyl for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think it's a no skips either. I think that me personally, when I'm getting to what really matters and now it's getting a little dreary.
Yeah.
It's starting to drag a little bit. So neither for me. So the moment everybody's been waiting for, Adriel, what are you giving The Crossroads by Cordae?
This for me is a 6.5. He's getting the same score again as the last time. This album's good. It's good, but it's just good.
Yeah, it's solid.
Yeah, like I don't know if this is going to be in my top albums of the year conversation. I don't know if it's in my top hip hop albums of the year conversation, but it's a good album. Like, I don't think I have any right to say this album is not good. There's definitely some things that could be gone from here. It's right on the precipice of being too many songs. It's only 48 minutes, but there's definitely 3 or 4 songs on here that we could have just cut out and made this clean. So for me, 6.5.
For me, The Crossroads by Cordae, no YBN. I think it's a 6 out of 10. I like it. I like a bunch of the songs. I think the features are good. His Anderson .Paak collabs are really good, which is a nice thing to have in the pocket. The Lil Wayne feature is also very good. I talked about the Kanye West feature. Somehow Kanye West has cajoled praise out of me for music recently.
Kanye and J. Cole praise in the same episode. What's next?
I know, it's like that's a new thing for me. And I do like his his Frank Ocean-ness on Syrup Sandwiches. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think my biggest issue is it's starting to sound samey with what you're rapping about. Even though it's reflective, we've reflected this way before.
Yeah.
We pondered these things before. And I think the production can kind of get dreary, especially near the end. But most of the production is pretty good, man. Anderson .Paak, J. Cole producing your music. You're up.
Yeah.
Shout out to J. Cole.
Yeah, I'm excited for what he's gonna do next. I think that this to me feels like the end of this era.
Hopefully.
Of Cordae. I'm excited to see where he goes next with it, because I think that what we didn't see in the past 3 projects is him take a lot of risk.
Yeah.
We saw some cool collabs. We saw him try some things in terms of Mad as Fuck and songs like that. But I'm ready for him to start taking some risks.
Yeah, me too.
And so I want to see how that goes. I believe in him to at least succeed at some of those. So I'm excited to see where he goes going forward. In the comments, let us know what you think. Are we rating this too high, too low? Are you the biggest Cordae fan the world's ever seen? Let us know in the comments. Find us on the interwebs at Album Mode Pod on Twitter, Album Mode Pod on TikTok, Album Mode Pod on Instagram, Album Mode on YouTube. Of course, make sure you're subscribed. And until next time, know yourself, know your worth.
Later, people. Body break.